It's supposed to go live yet. Well, hello to those who have arrived a little early. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. Okay, well, it would seem that it's 5 o'clock, and so welcome to everyone who has joined me here. The idea that I have here is a way to think about our Lenten discipline of fasting and to give some thought to giving up something in Lent. Now, Shrove Tuesday, which we celebrate today, is one of those days that has a lot of great memories for me. In the church where I grew up, on Shrove Tuesday, we always had the men's annual pancake supper. The whole community turned out. Hundreds of people came out for pancakes, and this whole bunch of guys who barely knew which end of a spoon to pick up were put into the kitchen and expected to cook to feed the multitudes. And some really, really odd things would happen as we all worked together there in the kitchen. I particularly remember Carl Shirley, who had managed to put together his own gadget that could be connected to his electric drill so that he could mix up a large quantity of pancake batter in a 5-gallon bucket. It was maybe a little unorthodox, but it certainly was a lot of fun. And as I thought about Shrove Tuesday this year, one of the first things I wondered was, how did we ever get this strange tradition of pancakes and sausages on the day before Lent? Well, out here in a little dish on my cook station, I've got a dish of candy, and there's a reason for that. I received that candy as a Valentine from my nieces and nephews, and I often say to my wife, I can resist anything except temptation. That candy presents a great temptation to me all the time, and each time I pass it by, my hand tends to reach out and grab a little bit of it. That's what Shrove Tuesday was all about, because as we prepare for the Lenten fast that will begin tomorrow, one of the first steps is to remove temptation. We want to get all those things out of the house that we aren't going to be eating during Lent. And so leaven and fat had to be removed from the house. Certainly in the Polish tradition, paczkis, rich, beautiful, sort of a donut, was another way to remove those temptations from the home. And certainly anyone who's ever been to Mardi Gras knows that there are all manner of temptations being indulged before the beginning of the Lenten fast. Those things like fasting, they are our Christian disciplines. In Lent, we're called to the four most important of Christian disciplines: penitence, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. And the reason for that, when I was doing my doctoral work down at Ashland in Ohio, I was working on the whole idea of the catechumenate and how in the early church, Christians were formed into their faith. And it went through a year of walking the life of Jesus, which we still do in our lectionary every year. During a certain part of the year, people were shepherded into the church. The faithful found friends and brought them. And then those people would begin a time of inquiry, finding out whether this faith suited them. And then came the 40 days of Lent, a time of formation. And finally, following Easter, a period of mystagogy when the bishop would help to unwrap what the yes that the neophytes had just said in baptism really meant to them. Now, originally, the diagram I used for that was a circle, because we were walking that path of Jesus once each year in a circle. Eventually, as I began to finish up my work, I realized it wasn't a circle at all, but a coil. Because with each pass through the life of Christ, we want to go a little deeper. We want to find better ways in order to live out our Christian faith. That's where those four great disciplines come in. Because through penitence, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, we find more depth each time we journey that walk with Jesus. The reason I'm calling this Eat Simply so that others may simply eat. Now tonight I'm going to cook the traditional pancakes and sausage, but on every other Tuesday in Lent, I am going to demonstrate a very simple recipe that will be much cheaper than the usual fare around my house, and whatever money I save, I'm going to put into my Lenten almsgiving jar. And at the end of Lent, when we come into the season of Easter, I intend on taking that jar to Lunch by George in Kingston and donating that money so that others may simply eat. So now, again, tonight is going to be a little different from most. I'm not going to do a full demonstration on making the pancakes, simply because I tried to do a test recipe today and it made so much pancake batter that my wife and I would be eating pancakes for the rest of the week if I actually did the batter again. So it's pre-mixed, but I'll tell you about what's in it. Now, I have had struggles with blood sugar for most of my adult life, and also I'm a celiac, and so the traditional pancake recipe I can't eat. And so I have a gluten-free recipe that I've used. It's really quite good. Begins with 1.5 cups of harina maseca, which is from South America, and it's simply corn flour, certainly what most South American people use to make tortillas. 1.5 cups of harina, 1/2 cup of gluten-free all-purpose flour. Now, I like the Irresistible brand because it already has the xanthan gum mixed in, so that you get a very good pancake that holds together well. 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 4 tablespoons of melted coconut oil, 2 beaten eggs, a cup of milk, and I added a cup of water because I find the batter is just too thick otherwise, and it certainly hasn't changed the end result at all. So I'm not too worried